Let's now have further analysis on the losers and also the gainers, the biggest gainers in the 2024-2025 budget. And Kiptum is on the other side of the studio with an analyst and will hold on the interview. Betty Kiptum.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Of course, we want to now break down those numbers that you've had. And as we had introduced you earlier, David Kingo, an economist, is in studio. Thank you, David, for staying with us.
I appreciate for the invitation too.
Right. 3.92 trillion. Yes. Of that, the education docket receives 656.6 billion shillings. Yes. What are your thoughts on this?
Basically, it's a plus to the education sector because we've seen the CBC program has brought in some challenges, given that we have a JSS teachers that have been on strike for some time. We also had an issue about capacity building on the education sector, where now teachers have transited from 844 to the CBC system. Of course, it's going to enhance and to unlock most of the issues that have been locked in implementation of the CBC. So basically, it's a plus, and we've seen some exact allocation towards the JSS teachers will now transit to permanent and pensionable. Basically, it's a plus to the education sector, and it might be cool the strike that we've seen in the last few weeks.
Right.
Yes.
Of course, as you said, CBC has had some challenges in implementation, so these might actually just slow down those challenges.
Yes,
is that what you're saying?
Yes, and basically it's not about Kenya, it's about an African Union, about changing our education system to ensure that the people that we sell human capital, and the CS also insisted about one of the key initiatives that they want to look at as a country is about enhancing our human capital in terms of we give human resources that can really thrive in other sectors of this world. So basically that particular achievement is a quite a plus allocation, which is specifically toward enhancing CBC. Mm-hmm. Yes.
The health sector is receiving 127 billion shillings. Yes. Of course, the county health promoters, those have also received quite an allocation. What are your thoughts on this?
Basically, when it comes to health sector, we call it, is it preventive, then we have the curative, right? So basically that is the preventive aspect of healthcare. So once we revamp the bottom of the health sector in terms of the people who will take you to the next clinic when basically you have the least health issue. So once they are enhanced and they are supported, basically we lessen the pressure on the mainstream healthcare system. So basically it's a plus as well to the healthcare sector in terms of enhancing the preventive care aspect of health. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What other sectors or other winners did you see when you were watching this budget being read?
We have had issues with pensions in this country, where people have complained they have left employment basically in the public sector, when we used to have what we call a defined benefit scheme, the DB, that's what it's called. Then before that we came to the DC. For the DB we have issues where people have left employment and they are not able to get their pension. So we have seen around 1.2 billion allocation toward that. Of course there is some allocation on the same for about interest payment. Basically it's a big win for the pensioners. We've also seen infrastructure whereby we are doing a railway city. So basically we wish to see that happen. It will be a plus to our transport system. And just basically to go deep inside the budget, we have a comparison of three economies in this world, and that is anchored on the medium term revenue strategy, a document that as Kenyans we have to look at because a build-up of the budget. So they are comparing Morocco and South Africa in terms of tax to GDP. So when you look at the transport system in these countries, of course, is beyond us. So allocation toward enhancing our rail city. So basically we say we are working towards the three economy that maybe we would compare with in terms of tax to GDP ratios. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And before we go to the losers, let's speak about what you've just mentioned, the revenue issue.
Yes.
According to this budget, there's a fiscal deficit of about 597 billion.
Yes.
Of this is domestic borrowing of 262 billion,
yes.
263 billion
yes.
rather, and external borrowing of 333 billion.
Yes.
This is a government that is saying we can no longer afford debts,
yes.
and we need to do more to generate revenue locally.
Yes.
Is this budget in tandem with what they're saying?
Basically, we've seen that they're trying to say that by the time we hit 2026, we need to be over 20% or 20 and 25% tax to GDP ratios. They have also said that GDP is expected to grow, and then we have a resilient inflation, as I said earlier. So basically, if we are able to meet our tax revenues that we collect, then basically with the austerity measure that they have put in place, we might be able to survive at up to some point without heavily depending on this particular borrowing. However, if these two aspects of the economy, both the GDP and inflation, go as per the projection, then as a country we'll be able to support the debt that we shall borrow. And the CS said we don't have historical default issues, so we are okay. Our CRB rating, whatever they take it, we are okay. So basically, if the economy moves as it is projected, then we might not see the challenges that we preempt, but we have not seen the revenue side of the same. So basically, when you see the revenue side, then we'll be able to debate around it.
Of course, there's around 2.2 trillion set for KRA.
Yes.
And according to the World Bank, a report they released a few weeks ago, they're saying that the tax measures that are being taken will slow down the economy this year. Of course, 5.5% projection is what Professor Ndongo said, yes, of the economy this year and next year.
Yes.
Is this a zero-sum game?
So basically what I would say, and I go back to my earlier statement, that before the Revenue Authority comes and says we want to tax this particular section of the economy, of course they do analysis and which other type of incomes in this economy we don't tax. Then we check the growth of our GDP. If we are able to say, when you compare around that, I saw a statistic around that 3 African countries where we want to see where is our tax and where is our GDP. Kenya was mostly midway. So we have an open window, and the IMF, I guess they were part of the what I'm calling the medium-term revenue strategy, where they talked about we need to increase our tax because we have untaxed incomes that we also have to look at, we cushion this particular gap. But anyway, the economy is uncertain. We are here and we're talking about positive because the dollar behaved positively the other time. So it might behave negatively, and then we end up on the negative side. But also we have seen the debt to GDP ratio has also been coming down. So maybe we might have a plus on the same. So it might be a zero-sum game, not unless the economy does a negative readjustment.
Right. Of course, a reality that exists. Professor Ndongo said that we need to increase the tax base, and those measures, we shall be talking about them in a little bit. Of course, this is just breaking down the budget, the 2024-2025 budget. I'm with David Kingo, who is an economist. We want to take a quick break. When we come back, more news and this conversation much later.